really quick. So first of all, want to say hi to Berri. Berri, wave your hand. Berri is the Director, Supply Chain Procurement and Supplier Diversity at Prisma Health. So thank you for being here, Berri. And then Kenyatta Lewis, if you can wave your hand. We've got two ladies in red today, actually three. So Kenyatta is the Executive Director of Supplier Diversity and Sustainable Procurement at MGM Resorts International. And then Michelle Morin, Global Procurement Leader, Supplier Diversity and Sustainability for Corteva Agriscience. So thank you, ladies, for taking time out of your busy day for doing something like this, giving to the community that definitely needs to hear your wisdom and the excitement that you use to bring all these amazing initiatives around supplier diversity and sustainability into our industry. So thank you for being here. First of all, our hosts, Amanda and I are dear partners in friendship and business. And one of those initiatives is Global Women Procurement Professionals. Obviously, I'm a relatively new face to the screen here, but you know Amanda very, very well. She's the founder of GWPP. We all love her, and we've decided to partner. We originally connected with this core belief that was very natural to both of us, that women need to be uplifted, especially in their places of work and in life. And that was really a big connection for Amanda and me to say, we need more people doing similar work, which is why we decided to partner and call others in to join this mission. Amanda's going to be our primary host in doing all of the questions and to our panelists, and then hosting a Q&A session so all of you can get what you need out of this session. And then we have Terry Shepard. So Terry is the Strategic Customer Engagement and Spend Management Leader at Workday. Workday is our sponsor for this event. So thank you very much for sponsoring not only a discussion on ESG and supplier diversity, but really giving us a chance to, again, think and brainstorm and bring all of this very powerful genius that resides in all of us into this group so that we can make initiatives like these easier, more fun, more productive, and really, really practical. So thank you, Terry, for being here. Workday is our sponsor, so thank you for being such an amazing supporter of women in procurement. By the way, men are welcome here too, if anybody's curious. We do not exclude anybody from this community, but as you can tell from the title of the community, Global Women Procurement Professionals, we do take a deep purpose in making sure that the women in our organizations feel well supported, feel like they have allies as well. So men are welcome, everyone is welcome. The more brains on this, the better. Just a quick mention, a little bit about who we are. For those of you who are new to the party, welcome. This is the first global organization dedicated to women in procurement. Shocking, I know. Shocking for Amanda when she founded it. But we are 4,960 members strong. Again, men and women members. And I have a call to action for all of us. If you're not already in the GWPP community, we are a LinkedIn-based community for now. More on where that might go in a different path in the future so we can have even more great engagement. But if you're not already a member within the LinkedIn community, please go to our company page, Global Women Procurement Professionals. If you type that in the search bar, you'll see our hummingbird logo come up pretty quickly and you'll know it's us. So go ahead and join. We'd love to get us to 5,000 members. And shockingly enough, we have exactly 40 participants in the room right now. So that seems like a pretty easy accomplishment to make. And like I mentioned before, Amanda and I are so focused on uplifting leaders in their careers and also in their lives. I think we all know the extent to which the lines blurred between career and life. Especially over the last few years. And more than ever, we need to feel that connection point between both of them, not keep them so separate. We recognize that. We saw a gap and we want to help fill it by offering community events like this. So really, really glad that you're here. And thank you for being here for this conversation. Just a quick mention before we dive in, events to get excited about. So Workday has graciously sponsored 3 additional roundtables. So this is a 4-part series, and we're very, very grateful for that. So we're going to have the next one in April, June, and then August. So we are finalizing the topics for that based on, what comes out of this conversation. We want to keep this conversation going and build a relationship with each of you in terms of what's important to you. So this is also feedback for us on what you want more support on throughout the rest of this year. And then for those of you who are already GWPP members, you're already familiar with Get Your Shimmer On Month, which is next month. That is Women's History Month. It's also Procurement Month. So we love to make that GWPP's month to celebrate. So we're going to be doing weekly events, more to come on that, both in the LinkedIn group. And if you're not signed up and you want to get notified of when those events are launching, go to globalwpp.com. Just sign up in the group, and then you'll get notified of everything that is going on. And the last thing that I'll mention, we do have our leadership development program waitlist open. It's going to be the most holistic leadership development program in the market. Again, because we're coming back to our pillars of what this community is all about, supporting leaders in career and life. So this is a big, exciting announcement for Amanda and me to bring this to the community so we can have even more support being offered to those of you who need it and are looking to, crush some goals this year, which I know is pretty much each and every one of you. So with no further ado, Terry Shepard, our wonderful, wonderful host and representative from Workday. Thanks, Terry.
Thanks so much, Jess, and thanks to all of you for being here today. My name's Terry Shepard, as Jess mentioned, and I'm part of the team that leads strategic customer engagement programs here at Workday within our spend management product team, which includes all our source-to-pay product solutions. We're so pleased to partner with GWPP this year to bring you, as Jess mentioned, a series of industry-leading and thought leadership topics that are top of mind for many of us in our career, but more importantly, aligned to our core values here at Workday, which is why we're so passionate about this series. Diversity is especially important here at Workday. As a company, we stand committed to what we call VIBE, or value, inclusion, belonging, and equity. We embrace VIBE in all we do, from our employees to our contingent workforce, suppliers, and products we build on behalf of our customers. And we're even more pleased to have a few Workday customers represented on today's panel. So thanks to each of you for taking out time of your day to join us, and to GWPP for letting us be part of this important conversation.
Jess, thanks for such a lovely introduction. Terry, thanks again for the sponsorship, not only of this event, but the future events that we're holding. One thing that I feel very passionate about with GWPP is that you're never alone. And these sessions are so important because these lovely ladies who you're going to hear from here in a few seconds know their stuff. They've been through it. They're going through it. They're even in our pre-conversations in the green room, they were bouncing questions off of each other. So this is going to be an amazing conversation. All right, so let's do this. I have a question for all of the panelists to get us started. And when you answer the question, please introduce yourself first so we get to know you a little bit more. And you can't start off any conversation without talking about what we've been through for the last almost 3 years. And I think you guys probably have a very unique perspective based off of the industries you come from on how your suppliers were impacted, how your industry was impacted, and then how did you support your suppliers through all of that craziness? So Kenyatta, if I can start with you first. Sorry, I know it was a random selection, and get your perspective on that question, then we'll go around to the others.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. I want to thank you first for just inviting me to be a part of this critical discussion and to be with these awesome ladies. And I want to tell Michelle, I love that profile picture. You just look so much like, it had so much life in your picture when they brought us up. So it was beautiful. So my role, I work within global procurement, the global procurement department for MGM Resorts. And I have the awesome job of leading the supplier diversity and sustainability, or sustainable procurement team. A little bit about MGM, we're headquartered in Las Vegas, and we operate over 20 resorts nationally. Fun fact is that we're the largest real estate owner on the Las Vegas Strip, so you've probably stayed with us if you've come to Vegas, or at least touched us. I'm responsible for advancing the inclusion and economic equity throughout MGM Resorts' domestic footprint, and then also minimizing the supply chain risk and identifying sustainable alternatives that have a lesser impact on the environment. So your question was about
COVID.
COVID and how
how you supported your suppliers, because I know you put a lot of effort.
So I know it was really challenging for everyone over these last 2 years, right? So for MGM, we were impacted like no other. I mean, it was for the first time in our industry and in our company that all of our doors closed, and we were closed for about 3 months, losing about $1 billion over that time. And what we really focused on first and foremost was to do checks on our suppliers, on all suppliers. We did, you know, the old fashioned, how are you, how's your family? That was the first thing that we did, just to ensure that they knew that we cared, and it wasn't just about business, it was the family. We also took time to engage with our suppliers, and having, knowing that this was a culture shock for everyone, and we engaged in virtual resilience workshops to support their business strategy and how they could pivot. And then we also have a mentorship program that was 6 months, and we decided that our executives would continue in that mentorship program virtually. And then even though we were close to the public, we're still working operationally. I never stopped working. I thought they would say stop working, but no. We kept working, and we engaged those diverse suppliers as they pivoted. We gave them those opportunities to come and join with us behind the scenes while our doors were closed to keep their businesses going as well. And during that time, we leveraged a lot of them for PPE and health and safety. I think we did to the tune of over $10 million with certified diverse-owned businesses during those, during that time, to help us with our employees that were still on site. So that's a little bit about what we did, but it was really coming together as a community and bringing them in and giving them new opportunities to sustain their business and their employees during this tragic time. So thanks.
You're welcome. And Kenyatta, I want to thank you as a resident of the Las Vegas Valley for the efforts that you put in, because it could have had a dramatic impact on our economy here. And because of efforts like what you did, it helped keep the economy growing and people, their livelihoods moving forward. So truly appreciate that as a resident and neighbor of the Strip.
Thank you so much. And I give it all the credit to our dynamic and engaged leadership. They are so committed, and it's an honor to work here.
Yeah, absolutely. So Berri, you have a very different perspective than what Kenyatta went through during COVID. Obviously, your industry was impacted in different ways. So how did you help your diverse suppliers get through that crazy time in our lives over the last couple of years?
Good morning, good afternoon for our folks who are just getting into their morning. Thrilled to be with you and on this panel. Thank you for inviting me, and along with my esteemed colleagues, Michelle, Kenyatta, Jessica, Amanda, and Terry. This is a great opportunity. Berri Heinz, I'm the Director of Supply Chain Procurement and Supplier Diversity at Prisma Health. A little bit about us. We are the South Carolina's largest private nonprofit healthcare system and the second largest private company with approximately 29,000 team members. We have about 3,000 licensed beds, 18 acute care and specialty hospitals, 270 physician practices, 2 affiliated medical schools, and we serve 1.4 million patients per year across 21 counties. So we're a little busy. So I would definitely say COVID changed the trajectory of where we were headed when we had to sort of stop and regroup. I have been working in this space for about 20 years, and I had started my career in construction and moved into healthcare 13 years ago. As the largest health system in South Carolina, we were impacted quite significantly, unlike other industries where they basically shut down, as Kenyatta just mentioned. Shutting down is not an option for healthcare. Being the largest healthcare supplier in South Carolina, our patients needed us and our team members needed us. So when the pandemic first hit, I joined the COVID response team for our supply chain and served alongside 5 other colleagues. For those on this call, you'll appreciate I was the only female among the 6 of us. So that made for a very interesting dynamic. We are a health system, 24/7 organization. So we did what just about every other human on this planet did. We pivoted. The 6 of us worked 7 days a week and usually into the night for several months, making phone calls, chasing leads, negotiating, placing orders, strategizing, regrouping, and starting over the next day. We delegated the low-hanging fruit to our staff who we had sent home to work remotely. And we then focused on the larger challenges, chasing that PPE, the critical medical supplies. We became unwitting global sourcing experts. We practically became importers. We had to move quickly and strategically because healthcare supplies were more scarce than our toilet paper. The market was incredibly volatile, and 1 hour delay could mean that you essentially lose your place in line on ordering supplies. Every day presented a new wave of challenges. We kept our focus on patient care and team member care. We knew that if we did not get them the supplies that they needed to, 1, protect themselves, and 2, to perform surgeries and provide medical care to patients, then we would have failed our community. So for us, it was very, very personal. We took that mission statement every single day, and we made sure that every one of our patients had the care that they needed. So essentially, we look at it as our family. This is our family that we're serving. And in healthcare, we like to say that supply chain is 1 degree of separation from that patient. We've always known that, and the pandemic really just highlighted that. We used to be the man or woman behind the curtain, and the pandemic put us front and center stage. So part of that strategy was working with the small and diverse businesses. They stepped up to the plate in a very, very big way. They even formed several new relationships with us through the diverse businesses. They got creative. They pivoted very quickly. Small businesses can pivot quickly, a little more quickly than the larger organizations, and we leveraged that agility with those small businesses because of those relationships. And as a result, we never ran out of supplies. You see the news and the media, a lot of that is very accurate, but because of our agility and our ability to work with the small and diverse businesses, we never interrupted our patient care. We kept a steady stream of PPE. It was a nail biter, but we did get it done, and we're looking forward to coming out on the other side.
And Berri, because of all of that, you're now on a panel. We're sharing these success stories and sharing your wisdom with others. So it was a great learning journey, I believe, for all of us. And now we get the opportunity to reflect and build. So thank you for sharing those comments. Michelle, also coming from an industry that did not slow down during the pandemic. It's obviously it's very critical for all of us to eat and have our food supply. So Michelle, I'm wondering if you can provide insights after you introduce yourself around how you supported your diverse suppliers through the pandemic.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm delighted to be here today with everyone. And Berri just said all the beautiful right ways to greet and thank everyone. So I'm just going to say ditto and thank you for that, Berri. So Corteva AgriScience is where I have the pleasure and the privilege to work right now. You might not know our name yet. We're not yet 3 years old, but we have hundreds of years of heritage and history that's rich and deep and global. So Corteva grew out of the merger of Dow and DuPont. And my little short story is Daddy Dow and Daddy DuPont decided to get married, do an asset swap, have a baby, that's us, get divorced and stay friends. And so Corteva AgriScience is the child that grew out of Dow and DuPont, household names globally. And in the place that we are right now, we are the largest pure play agriculture company in the world. I have the pleasure to be the global procurement leader for supplier diversity and sustainability. I also have the pleasure to be the procurement legal liaison, and the company's not yet 3. So when I think back to what happened in COVID before we hit pandemic, we were 6.5 months old when we heard what was happening to our colleagues in the first part of the world where things started, China and the APAC region. And we had to look at supply chains. And it really created this fantastic tiger team approach within Corteva across different departments to look at how do we, as an R&D company serving agriculture, how do we help where help is needed from the places that help is not needed yet? But do we also have to look through a spyglass or binoculars or big ears to say, is it coming? And here's a little bit about what happened and how we engage diverse suppliers. So procurement globally has about 470 people. We're incredibly diverse as individuals all over the world, which is helpful because when you have diversity in your group, you have diversity of thought and you have innovation in those conversations. We really started to learn what laws mattered in country borders. And if you think about from the US perspective, we can all remember at what point in time certain borders were threatened to be closed and then were in fact closed. And we can all remember some people might have got stuck at airports and some things got stuck in transit. And even today in February of 2022, we still have supply chain issues. We still have things in containers that have been in containers for months. And how are we going to keep our people safe? And how are we going to serve farmers? So our purpose is to enrich the lives of those who produce and those who consume, ensuring progress for generations to come. Well, COVID and pandemic is all about today and generations to come, and really ensuring that there's food at the market. So everyone, everywhere in the world has food, and not just food today in the moment, because we help farmers feed the world. We don't produce food necessarily. Farmers are our primary customer globally. And we don't just need food now. If farmers don't plant, there won't be food to harvest. Long impact chain. So we had to use unique countries that had unique trade laws that even when borders were closed. So if you didn't know, China and South Africa have a very unique trade law where everybody else closed their borders to China, but South Africa and China don't close their borders. So our lead procurement African-American woman, South African woman in South Africa, led a procurement team to engage diverse suppliers, many of them Black African women suppliers, to get PPE through their supply chains to us in South Africa to then transport it to our folks in China, because we need PPE all the time in our laboratories. As an R&D company, that's a normal everyday event, but we needed more, and we needed it for everyday life, and we needed to support our people and their families. So learning how to not just look at what's available external to your company and supply chain, but looking at can you lift and leverage internal to your supply chain. And if you've ever played the game Tetris, it's kind of like that. You have to move this block to sit this one in and then adjust that one, but wait, I want that one over there and move it here. So all of these moves were happening all along Corteva. As a global company, we have real estate in 69 countries and we sell in 160 countries. So we had a lot of things to move. I gave you one little example to get things to China. But of course, as the world and as COVID became pandemic and things changed, it's constant pivot, always being innovative, always looking at how do we keep our people safe? How do we serve farmers so that they can feed the world? Pandemic was announced. One of the very first things I had the privilege to do within 45 days of that was to connect with Amanda, build a relationship with GWPP, and Corteva sponsored a resiliency workshop where we had some external people and some internal people come together for a resiliency conversation, which really helped us to think in a new and powerful way as women professionals. And we had men there as well. And it was one of our male leaders who said, hey, GWPP, Michelle, let's talk to them. Which the answer was, hey, I heard about them too. Let's figure it out. So our full circle to today, we started some work with GWPP. I'm delighted to be here now. And that's what we had, diverse suppliers everywhere, supporting our critical needs to keep our people safe, which supported ongoing business for diverse suppliers so they could keep their people employed and safe.
Yep. And Michelle, we're so grateful for the partnership and the opportunities that we've had to work together. And I just want to mention to everyone listening here, if you don't already have the impression that you should get to meet these three women, I don't know what else to say. They were amazing. Please connect with them on LinkedIn, get to know each of these ladies because they have a wealth of knowledge, experience. And again, the more that we can share between us all, the more that we can uplift each other. And and be successful, whether it's COVID or whatever is next around the corner. So truly appreciate all these comments. Kenyatta, I'm going to kick it back over to you. And I'm wondering now, we talked about the past, let's talk about the present a little bit around like, what are your diverse suppliers facing today, and how are you helping them meet those challenges?
Great question, Amanda. What we've done in the past, just briefly about the past that helps us in the present, is we talk with our suppliers to identify what are the barriers that they have in business or doing business with us. And these top three still they're resounding. And I think many will nod their heads. It's access to capital, access to opportunities, and then dealing with this thing called insurance, because corporations have all these different insurance limits. And so this was a feedback that we received as a company. And what I came back to our executives, our C-suite, and requested was a task force. And so last year we were able to form an executive-led supplier inclusion task force. It's about 15 vice presidents, senior vice presidents, and they serve on different subcommittees to address these barriers for our diverse businesses. And we've had a phenomenal year. For access to capital, we looked at what are our payment terms for all suppliers. And so those were revised. For certified diverse businesses, we shortened those payment terms for them. We also looked at minority banks, small minority banks, as well as minority depository fund institutions, and I worked with Treasury to make sure that we were making deposits of minimum of $10 million into these different banks in the communities where MGM Resorts operates. And that was because small businesses and banks will lend to those small businesses. And so we wanted to get the capital to them. Access to opportunities, we really modified our contracting terms and our requirements for tier 1 and tier 2. And then finally, this big behemoth insurance, working with our risk management team, we've developed the first ever insurance resource program where diverse suppliers will have access to large insurance companies. They can use their own brokers, or we can put them in touch with these other brokers that can give them more competitive rates so that they can compete in contracting and RFP opportunities. So those are like big barriers. And in less than a year, our executives were able to tackle it. And you know what? There are new things that they're doing, revamping our mentorship program. And so we are just I'm so excited for the top-down leadership and the engagement that we have. And I forgot to state, our executive sponsor for this task force is our CFO of the company. And so we have that accountability to ensure that everyone is marching and singing in the same hymn book.
Kenyatta, as a diverse business myself, yes, hear you there on those top three challenges. Feel it every day. So thank you for sharing those insights and pulling that task force together. And Berri, I hope you're still there. So if not, I can skip over to Michelle's question. Berri, are you available for a question? If you're trying to talk, you're on mute. Give her 1 second here. We had a really great follow-up question for Berri because she had a lot of passion around why is it so important to have support across the organization, like Kenyatta just mentioned, for their supplier diversity program. So Berri, are you there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, I don't know I had to hop onto my 5G. I apologize. Something's happened with our connection, our VPN. So apologies for that. So I'm here. I'm still working on that connection, but I do have my follow-up question. Go ahead.
Okay. So why is it so important? Like Kenyatta was just mentioning, she's developed a task force, has this cross-functional support of the supplier diversity program. Why is it so important to have goals that are shared across the organization and that type of support?
Yes, absolutely. When I think about supplier diversity efforts to create a more diverse pool of suppliers, a popular phrase comes to mind, and that's "it takes a village." And it truly does take an entire village of passionate people to affect any kind of significant change, whether it's supplier diversity or elsewhere. As passionate as I am about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I am just one person in an organization of nearly 30,000 people. Now, don't misread that. I do have influence, and I absolutely can be that proverbial pebble in the water that creates a ripple effect of change. However, my reach only goes so far by the simple nature of my position. I am a professional connector and a professional influencer, but I am not necessarily the final decision maker. For example, I am the director of procurement. I am not over contracting. So the contracts team must make a concerted effort to include small and diverse businesses on all of their RFPs. If having diverse suppliers on all RFPs is not an established and measurable goal, then really how likely is it to even be a consideration in that process at all? The term out of sight, out of mind could apply here if your contracts team is not paying attention and just checking those boxes. The same concept would hold true for executive leadership. And for many organizations, executive leadership cascades their financial goals down to the departments, thus creating a shared responsibility for everyone. Even departments with no budget or very low overhead would still feel the effects of a system-wide financial win or loss because the system finances was part of their goals. The same concept should apply to supplier diversity. It should be a system-wide goal to have a pool of suppliers that mirror the demographics of your customer. In my case, those customers are our patients. I was recently on a call with supplier diversity colleagues across several industries discussing best practices and shared responsibility for diversity, equity, and inclusion, that being the important word, or the lack thereof, is a very common theme. Other colleagues have expressed frustration that their leadership was more interested in checking a box rather than understanding and participating in the efforts to actually move that needle. So my practical advice is, if you are starting your own business now, or if you are in a position to change leadership goals, then build those supplier diversity goals into all of your operational leadership team goals. Having increased supplier diversity as a KPI for your operational team will put more skin in the game and you will get more results. If you are not in a position to make those changes, then talk with your leadership anyway and share this session with them. Perhaps you will glean some useful information from it.
Thank you so much, Berri. And sorry about your technical issues, but we all have learned to be agile, right? So thanks for being resilient and staying with us through the phone call. So Michelle, I would like to turn to you a little bit because, you know, we're talking about organizational support, and with a very complex organization globally that you have, I'm curious to understand what parts of the world leverage sustainability versus supplier diversity, and how that drives inclusive behavior.
Thanks, Amanda. It's a great topic, and we could talk about it for hours. So I'm going to really try to give the Cliff Note version of it. The word sustainability really means our common future. And sustainability was really first seen in any professional report about 30 years ago in 1987. The word supplier diversity started in the United States, and it was from an executive order from the US government. And that was in 1969, March 5th, as a matter of fact, which is the annual birthday of supplier diversity. But it was very focused and very small, where sustainability, when it came out in the first report, was global and inclusive. And so the element of sustainability, that it impacts everyone for a common future. And the fact that the world today is on a trajectory to add 42% more humans to our population by mid-century, we really collectively have a problem to solve. And if we don't solve it together, and it touches every person, no matter what their bias, conscious or unconscious, is, no matter what their race or gender is, no matter if they're in a family or single, no matter if they're educated formally or educated from life experience, no matter the language they speak or their socioeconomic impact to their personal life and external to them. Sustainability touches everyone. So when you can find that humongous umbrella and you can align what you're working on as a cause to be an important pillar under that huge umbrella, you get more traction. So I have aligned supplier diversity in partnership with my chief procurement officer to be under the umbrella of sustainability and as a pillar of sustainability. Now, we're not the only people in the world to do that. The United Nations started in 2015, the second batch of 15-year global sustainable development goals. There are 17 of them. If you haven't yet heard about the 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, go to the United Nations and look for 17 SDG, and you can read them. And in particular, look at number 5 and number 10, which include women and girls and equity, and supplier diversity sits squarely there. And if we look globally at what's the one group that everyone could agree to, again, regardless of bias, conscious and unconscious, and particularly if you're a person who firmly, with a clenched fist, want to hold on to an ism, if you have racism in your heart, if you have genderism in your heart, whatever you are, I'm not going to judge you. If you have that, I still think sustainability and the common future for all, I can even touch that person. I can even get that person to agree that there are steps that can be taken that include inclusion to improve the world. So the United States has the richest, deepest history in supplier diversity. The United States history includes both government and corporate engagement of diverse suppliers, letting diverse suppliers hold themselves out as diverse, and then us celebrating that to inclusively bring them in. Now, don't take all those happy words to mean that we're doing it right. Don't take all those happy words to mean that we're even doing it best right now, because we're not. Globally, women still are less than 1% of all spend from all procurement everywhere, right? So we still have a long way to go. But when you can find the bigger impact moment and you can squarely raise a pillar under it, you know that you found that next touch point. So for me, sustainability is what I talk about first in Europe. It's what I talk about first throughout Africa. It's what I talk about first when I'm engaging in the ASEAN region, whether it's China or India or Australia. Latin America all day long gets sustainability in ways faster, I think, than North America does. So the sustainability umbrella is a warm, happy shelter where really supplier diversity, inclusion, and equity fit very well.
Michelle, I want to give, like, if I could give a virtual hug right now, common future for all, like around sustainability. I was like getting emotional over here. I don't know.
So let me give credit to that title. Thank you. But let me give credit to that title because I don't want to steal anybody's credit ever. So that was a 1987 Brundtland report. That's the title. Our Common Future, and that's when sustainability was used for the first time. So now that you know the source, you can use it many times, credit it once, and then you can say Our Common Future anytime you want to.
I was just gonna say that it was yours, but that's good too.
It's not mine.
All right. So thanks for sharing. And ladies, we want to keep about 10 minutes of this hour is going way too fast. So what I'm going to ask you to do, I want to do one last round of questions to each of you, but if you can keep it to like 2 minutes for your response, so we can do a little bit more rapid fire. And I'm going to just pick some ones that I think that might be really great to round out with here. So Berri, there's a question that I would love to ask you, and it's really about the intangible value that diverse suppliers bring to the business. And you've mentioned this a little bit earlier on in one of your comments, but I would love you to expand on that and what are those intangible benefits or values that the suppliers bring?
Thank you. That's a great question. It's one of my favorite questions when I explain to people who aren't familiar with supplier diversity. Excuse me, I'm pivoting on my phone, so apologies. And it's people have a hard time understanding this concept because those of us in the supplier diversity space, we're already drinking the Kool-Aid, right? It's a tough concept to pass on to people who aren't familiar with it. For example, leadership, they're looking to justify their bottom line. Where do the suppliers' numbers land on the RFP? That's a double-edged sword, though, because every large organization, small organization with substantial purchasing power, that bottom line is critical. That's what fits on the budget. There's a line item for that spend. And keeping our numbers tight, that's what keeps doors open. That's what keeps people in jobs. All very true, very important. But what cannot fit onto a budget are those intangibles, the ways that small and diverse businesses will bend over backwards to take care of their customer, to get creative, to get innovative. COVID is a great example of that. The small, diverse businesses are the ones who are answering the phone at 10 o'clock at night when you have a last minute change. The CDC has changed their guidelines overnight, and we need somebody to pick up the phone. Your big box stores will not be picking up that phone, and they pivot quickly. They will bring the product to your dock. They will provide you with the tracking number. I know we're running out of time, so I'm moving very quickly, but Ebola crisis and the COVID-19 crisis, we have great examples. I'd love to talk to somebody offline about several diverse suppliers who got product to our doors Monday morning at 8:30 delivery before the big box stores ever opened up. Those are the intangibles that you cannot convey on a budget, but our executive leadership needs to understand them, and they need to implement that in their decision-making when deciding on where to spend their dollars.
Absolutely, Berri, cannot agree more. Being one of those diverse owned businesses, I agree. So it feels very real to me. So Michelle, next question for you. You brought this up in one of our green room conversations, and it's about privacy laws and how they're intersecting with supplier diversity's personal identifiable information. And I think it's something I know before I talked to you, it didn't even cross my mind. So I think it would be really valuable to discuss here on this call.
Thanks, Amanda. Let me start with a disclaimer. I am not a lawyer, so nothing I'm about to say is legal advice. I am a businesswoman, as you all are, so we can have a businesswoman conversation. So look, privacy laws and the value that they give to all of us as individuals and as consumers are really important. But we have to put on our business hat when we think about privacy laws and how they protect or are a gate that we have to get through for some business activity. So I'm going to share, I recently had some experiences. I'm working on an interesting global report opportunity, and it had me touch diverse suppliers in other countries in a unique way. And because I'm also the procurement legal liaison, I always touch my lawyers to make sure that what I'm about to do is the right thing and, you know, what might exist that I am not aware of. And it's really good to know that we all have blind spots and we have partners to help us with those. And your legal department, you could look at as a stick or you could look at as a carrot. And I always want to look at them as the carrot. Help me do the right thing. So with that approach, the privacy law, so some privacy laws were new in China last quarter. So there were two. One was effective in September, one was effective in November. And they were about personally identifiable information. And South Africa also has a unique privacy law. And generic definition, the South Africa law was even about business privacy. And even telling the name of an employee could be considered a privacy matter. So think about if I am trying to collect information about businesses owned by diverse people. All day long, I'm looking at what is your race? What is your gender? What is your LGBT status? What is your disability status? What might your veteran status be? Those are the things that would make a chief privacy officer go nuts. From a warning, 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 we need to be careful, we need to be careful. So what is the business reason that we need to collect information from diverse suppliers? And how much do we need to collect? And if we collect at the aggregate level rather than at the individual level, we can dodge the black and white of a lot of those privacy laws. But when we need to collect the individual, we have this opportunity to say, if you, the diverse supplier, have already partnered with an NGO advocacy organization, and there aren't enough globally. They're not in every country. They're not everywhere yet. But if the diverse supplier has the opportunity to hold themselves out with intention and deliberateness to say, I am diverse, I'm holding myself out as diverse, here's all my information as diverse, to be registered or certified as diverse, that gives us in supplier diversity the great opportunity to count them and identify them in that diversity place. Now, sometimes we know that there's a diverse supplier who is intersectional and has more than one diversity element, right? So I'm a female and I'm LGBT. I'm intersectional, can be counted any place, either place, both places. But I have to say that, I have to hold that out in order for you to count me both places. If we have a diverse supplier that's certified one, but is the other and we don't know it, that might trigger a privacy moment. If you're trying to do an economic impact report where you're trying to ask your supply chain, how many jobs are supported by you doing business with my company? And what's the diversity element of those jobs? At the aggregate level, you're okay. At the individual level, you're not. So more and more as we travel under this umbrella of sustainability, and then a pillar, supplier diversity, our legal teams have to become our strong partners. And we have to help diverse suppliers know that self-identification, intentionally getting certified to let us tap that element is important, because privacy laws are continuing to develop at the legislative level, at every level of jurisdiction, city, county, state, country. And it's an important element that we'll have to continue to navigate.
Awesome, Michelle. It was just a fantastic point of conversation. I think it's growing on everyone's radar. So thank you for bringing that to our attention and understanding the relationship there. Kenyatta, let's wrap it up with a future focused question. So we've talked about the past, talked about the present. Let's talk about what's coming around the corner. So what are your top 3 priorities for 2022? And then we're going to open it up for questions. And we already actually have our first one. So
our top 3 priorities here at MGM Resorts is really managing supply chain risk, ensuring that our suppliers are in compliance with our supplier code of conduct. With all of these supply chain issues that we're facing, there's still a lot of risk in the supply chain. So it's ensuring those things. But then it's also the advocacy and enablers. What are those detractors or those things that make it difficult to do business with MGM? And we want to continue to establish continue to build those momentum on those things that we've already established and committed to deliver. And it's building a real robust pipeline of diverse suppliers. I think it's and certified diverse suppliers, listening about privacy, but really focusing on how do we identify suppliers who are capable of sliding right in, that we've developed them through our mentorship program, that we have companies that are either doing business with us that can grow with us, or those who are not doing business with us, but it's in an area where we operate, and that they would be prepared to supply us either domestically, globally, or even regionally. So that's what we're really focused on as a team is growing what we have. And then, okay, the final one, because it's like the bonus. It's really driving accountability internally, making sure that we communicate to the departments and executives and all the way to the line level of why this is important, why inclusion is good for business, and the impact that their decisions every day have in ensuring that we hit our long-term goals. Those SDG goals, which MGM has goals against 14 of the 17. So making sure that everyone knows that the decisions that they make every day can really support the greater good for the company.
Love that, Kenyatta. And I'm sure that, if we can bring up other things that we need to have on our radar this year too, but that is a fantastic list of items to be focused on. So thanks for sharing. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Just so you guys know, you can ask questions through the Q&A or through the chat. We're monitoring both. We do have our first question that came in, and it was related, Michelle, to a comment that you made about the 1% of the total procurement spend everywhere being with women-owned businesses. Is that total market spend, the opportunity for procurement, or what percent of total market spend or the opportunity for procurement is under women-owned?
Great question. Let me attribute it and expand it a little bit, especially since we're at GWPP. Let's talk about that W a little bit. So there's a global NGO advocacy organization known as We Connect International, and they are the registration and certification of women businesses globally outside of the US. In the US, it's WeBank. And We Connect International is where I got that data from. So let's think for a minute, world population. 51 to 52% of the world population is women. And then of the business population, somewhere around approximately 30% of the businesses that exist are women businesses. But then of all of the spend in the world, business to business commerce, 1% of that spend is with women businesses. So we go from the number of women alive on the planet to a smaller percentage in business to really looking at what is our economic value in the marketplace as women business owners when only 1% of all of the dollars, and I'm going to normalize it to US dollars, are spent globally with women businesses. And that's why we all do supply diversity, right? That's why GWPP is here to support women. So We Connect International is looking to change that. They're just over 10 years old. I think they're 11 years old now. All of those data points that I shared, except for population, I've learned from listening to their CEO, Elizabeth Vasquez, and or through a variety of activities. And Corteva AgriScience is a member of We Connect International. So that's where that comes from. I encourage you all to go look at We Connect, WECONNECT, one word, We Connect International, and I'll put in the chat their link. But thanks for that question.
Yes.
It's an abhorrent reality, and it's something we can all do together to make change.
We have some work to do, as Jessica said in the comments. So a lot of room for improvement there. And having Jessica has led for our organization going through the certification process, and we're awaiting our final stamp. So we will be officially certified here in hopefully the coming weeks. But it actually, for anyone that might own a company and is a woman on the phone today or diverse status, it wasn't that bad. Now, speaking from the person that wasn't leading it, but I think Jessica would agree. So Kenyatta, another question that came through was, you mentioned expanding your pipeline of diverse opportunities. So how does one go about finding those diverse market opportunities?
So when you say finding the diverse market?
Or finding suppliers that can fill that pipeline, how do you find those opportunities?
Great question. It is definitely, it's interesting. If you ask the diverse business community, they'll tell you they can get the most connections by going out and networking, going to matchmaker meetings, having matchmaker meetings, right? And doing networking. For corporations, we say, if I do a meet and greet, more of a person-to-person matchmaker event. So we're on two different spectrums. We've identified that there are some national databases. We've just recently onboarded Supplier IO, who has over 300 different points for certifying agencies. And so businesses that are registered with them, it gives us a pool to be able to search and identify those suppliers. And they're used across various industries. But it is also through our partners, through NMSDC, through WeBank, these certifying bodies that definitely help us to connect with, where our gaps are. So it's really, again, I think someone said earlier, it's really the village, right? And it's through our peers, through different networks that we have, industry groups. It's kind of get on the mountaintop and shout, these are my gaps, help me fill them. But it's being strategic, but then it's also grassroots. So I think it's really important to leverage those relationships, leverage technology, And then start with what you already have. Sometimes we don't know the full capacity of our existing suppliers and what it is that they're able to do for us, or what they may be doing for someone else that we don't know. So we simply need to ask the question.
Thank you for that. And we're getting some really good comments about your answer about Supplier IO in particular. And I do want to mention, as a follow-up to this webinar, Workday is coming out with a white paper about digital acceleration. So it's interesting as we're talking about, you know, supplier diversity and sustainability and ESG on this phone call, that technology comes up and its interrelation. So that will be the next white paper that's coming out from Workday. So please to keep your eyes out for that. So we have a minute left. I do like to end on time because we have so many commitments in our lives right now, but I want to thank each and every one of you on the call today for all of your questions and for joining us, for your passion for women in procurement. Our panelists, Michelle, Berri, Kenyatta, you guys are, you're all amazing women in procurement. Thank you for being an example to us today. Thank you for your willingness to share and to continue to build the network around us, so none of us feel like we're alone on this journey. So thank you so much for that. Terry, thanks for Workday, as always, for being the sponsor of this wonderful conversation and more to come. And Jess, as a friend and a partner, all the work that you did to put this together. So with that said, I want you guys to have a lovely day. Make it a great day, a best day ever. And hopefully you have learned some today to apply to your business tomorrow. Thank you all for joining and have a wonderful day.